watching this podcast. My name is Ayub Mwangi, and I would want to welcome you to today's episode of the Organizational Communication Academy. So, today I want to go back to the issue of organization and culture. And the reason why I'm going there is because we saw the Inspector General of Police, Japhet Koome, the head of the Civil Service, Felix Kosgei, and the PS in the Ministry of Interior, uh, Security and National Coordination, Raymond Omolo, hold a meeting with senior police officers in which they talked about the ever lingering issue of corruption in the civil service and particularly in the police service. And one thing that you'll have to agree with me is that corruption and the police service is one and the same. You know, I don't think there are very few policemen, of course, not all, but there are very few policemen who are not likely to serve you and demand a bribe. And now the problem is that corruption within the police service or the police service is actually a symbol of government because the police represent the government, and therefore that uniform actually represents government. So it is like a reflection of what government is. Of course, there are some good departments where corruption does not take place, or even if it takes place, it is not as open as it does within the police service. So therefore, these senior officials were talking to other senior officers within the service to tell them that they need to address that issue. In any case, they need to even bring it down so that they can change the image of the police service, which is tainted by officers who take bribes blatantly. Of course, one of the excuses is that the giver and the taker are always to blame. You know, the one who gives and the one who takes carry an equal blame. Of course, those are semantics and debates, but the bottom line is that giving and taking of bribes is not an issue that should be condoned within the public service. Now, where is the problem? Now, this is where the problem is. Corruption is a cultural issue. So what do I mean? When I say that corruption is a cultural issue, I mean that it is something that has been passed from one generation of employees to another. You know, it has been ingrained into the system of the organization. So it has become normalized. It is now a value. It is like a belief. It is what junior officers joining the police service today we learn from their seniors. You know, forget about the rule book. And I think I've talked about this again. But it is what people see others doing. Just like in our own homes. You know, our children do not learn from what we tell them not to do, but from what we are doing, and they pick it up as part of their life. So a new officer into the police service today will not need to read the rule book. They only need to look at what is the police officer who is senior than them doing. Now, if I have arrested a suspect and I need to take this suspect to book the suspect so that they can appear in a court of law, how will my boss handle this case? If I have been assigned to the traffic department, you know, I'm just a junior constable who's been assigned to work with another maybe senior officer like a corporal or something, and he's the one who is taking bribes from matatu drivers, what is it that he's telling me without necessarily speaking to me? One of the organizational anthropologists by the name Gert Hofstede described culture as the collective programming of the mind, that people are programmed according to the way that the environment behaves, you know, through the manner of speech, through the norms, the traditions, the values, the beliefs. You know, people believe that if you work in the traffic department, for instance, you are likely to become rich very fast. And that's the reason why out here, civilians and citizens are ready to give any kind of a bribe so that their children can be employed in the police service and that they can break the poverty barrier and become rich very fast. So therefore, for the head of the civil service, Mr. Felix Kosgei, PS Raymond Omoro, and Japhet Koome, I have one message for you, that in as much as you want to address corruption, you need to change the values of what these people hold dear to them. Are they, do they value their job? Do they value what they earn? Why should we pay them double? We pay them salaries in the form of our taxes, and at the same time, they are out there rent seeking from civilians. So it is important to be able to address this thing. And the good thing is that if the tone from the top is good, that the senior officers have said no, and this is cascaded down to other junior officers than them, up to the last guy who joins the civil service today, then that issue can be addressed. But as long as that battle is not won, I know there are people who say yes, we want to purport to fight corruption, but we are only going for the very junior officers, for the low cadre officers, whereas the senior ones go scot-free. It is quite a humongous task. It's not an easy task, but it can be done. I think the reason why it can be done is because the senior most officers are determined to see it go. But then, given that people are quite innovative, that people can at times be a bit innovative, they are likely to find new ways of hiding how they are going to take that money. For instance, if you go to many police stations here in Nairobi, you'll find an M-Pesa just next to the police station where money is withdrawn, but then it does not go to the hands of the withdrawer. You just go there, withdraw the money, and leave it there. It will be handed over to the guy who instructed that job to be done in that particular way. So again, people are quite ingenious in the way that they want to do some of these things. So I wish you well. I hope that the police service will be able to win this battle. But I can tell you that as a cultural issue, it is not easy. But again, if communication is applied in the right way, if the relevant sanctions are taken to deal with the issue, if the relevant action is taken to address those people who engage in corruption, then I think it can be done away with. Thank you.